Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, a registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am so excited for you to hear this next interview. I have virtually in front of me Michelle Lee. She is a nutrition coach and a good friend of mine who has an incredible, inspiring, motivating story, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. So without further ado, Michelle, welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're so welcome. I'm excited for you to be here as well. The first question I always ask my guest is for you to introduce yourself by sharing who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do what you do.
Okay, so I am Michelle, and I am a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. I help women, mostly women, some men, but mostly women, lose weight, and get off the diet roller coaster. Most of them struggle with body image and trying fad diets, restricting food groups, and we try to break away from all of that and get them to lose weight as well as break away from diet culture and find sustainable habits for a balanced life that they can do for a lifetime and dieting for good.
Mm-hmm. And so why did you choose to go that route? Why is that important to you?
So I myself have struggled with being obese my entire life from the time I was 8 years old. And when it finally clicked for me and I did lose the weight, I just fell in love with fitness first. Before the nutrition part came in, it was fitness. And I just wanted to help anyone who struggled the way I did and felt as bad about themselves that I did, feel good about themselves and find power within that and heal themselves. So It just became such a passion for me.
Yeah. And I love that. I love when someone who has a personal experience with knowing how it feels to be overweight and then being able to make that transformation and help others do the same. I think it gives a little bit of extra empathy when coaching clients. So I think that's really great. One thing that you mentioned before when we were chatting offline was kind of growing up with being, you were the only obese sister or family member in your family member. And it was made apparent to you that was somehow like not okay or unacceptable. And how that kind of manifested in a lot of insecurities and how you, even when you lost the weight, it still went into your adulthood. So do you mind elaborating on that?
Yeah. So, like you said, I am one of three girls and I'm the middle child, and my younger and older sisters are both tall and thin, never dieted, never struggled with weight or any issues at all with their body image. Well, they did, but in a different way. For me, my dad was a model, an actor, a dancer, and looks were everything to him. It was part of his business and something that he focused a lot on. So early on, he would always pick at me. You shouldn't be eating that. You're eating too much of that. You don't need that. And that made me feel really self-conscious about eating in front of people and just feeling bad about food. It made me develop a bad relationship with food very early on. But it also made me feel bad about my own body image and feeling safe. So my insecurities stayed with me throughout my entire life because my dad always made me feel like I was a disappointment to him. And, your parents and your home, that's your safe place. Kids always made fun of me and I always got teased. Nobody wanted to date me, but at home I should have felt safe and I didn't. And then that made me feel like if I wasn't loved there and I wasn't good enough there, I was never going to be good enough for anybody else. So I can remember specifically one time my parents divorced when I was 8, and we used to go visit my dad in Florida for the summers. And I was about 10 at the time, and he was introducing my sisters and I to clients. And he said, this is the one sister, this is the other, this is Michelle. She loves to eat. And I just felt like he was making an excuse for my size. And that stayed with me forever. And I always had anxiety about seeing him and talking to him, because was he going to be disgusted by me, or was I going to let him down and be disappointed? So that really framed, my insecurities and, feeling like I was valuable to anyone. And then my mom, who never made me feel bad about myself, at least she didn't do it intentionally, she would always buy treats like Pop-Tarts. I remember loving Pop-Tarts growing up.
Oh my God, they were the best. Strawberry with the frosting. Strawberry frosted Pop-Tarts, yeah.
And popcorn. Entenmann's Pop'ems.
And toaster strudels. Sorry.
Yes, toaster strudels are great too. But my mom used to bring them home and tell me, these are for your sister, they're not for you. And so I associated that I was bad if I was eating these things. So I used to bribe my sister and tell her, I'll clean your room if you give me a Pop-Tart. You can't tell mom. But then I also used to sneak food. So I used to, I don't know, they don't do it anymore, but Entenmann's boxes, when I was growing up, you used to be able to stick your hand up the side and push back the flap, and I would be able to pull out a Pop-'em, and the box would still be sealed. And I used to closet eat them and sneak it because I was told it wasn't for me. And it just made me have a really bad relationship with food very early on. Wow. That's where it started.
Yeah. And that's really, I'm sorry that you went through that. I don't think, it sounds like this is what's so hard with parenting, and I'm not one, I see the aftermath of when parents are trying, your mom's intentions, I'm sure, were pure, but it just did so much more harm than good. And it's so, it's upsetting to watch, but I'm glad that, I think you made purpose out of your pain, which is all the things that you went through that I hope no child ever has to go through, because I hope when someone's educated on this, they know how to, speak to their children differently and not, give them food and only if they look a certain way. But all that to say, it seems like you really have used it not only to help heal yourself, but to help others, which is super powerful. So thank you for sharing that.
It was, I as a parent, I'm a parent, I have a daughter, and that was, I think, one of the things that gave me that shift when I finally,
you broke the cycle.
I was looking at my 3-year-old child, and I was like, not 3-year-old. Yeah, 3. She was 3. And I thought to myself, I cannot let history repeat itself. Yeah. These behaviors are going to transfer onto her if I don't do something about it. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the driving forces behind me finally clicking and losing the weight. But it didn't end there. It didn't end with that. My mom, she didn't mean, she meant no harm. I don't think she knew how to help me.
Right.
But she passed when I was 19. Mm. And right before she passed, I was 18. I was working at a supermarket, and I never dated. I never had a boyfriend. I can remember in high school, there was a boy I had a crush on, and we were all sitting out in the crowd outside in the quad or whatever. And he looked at me, and I was wearing gray jeans, and he looked at me and he said, "Wow, Michelle," I was 250 pounds at the time in high school. And he said, "Michelle, you look really good in gray." And I blushed, and I was like, oh, he's talking to me. And then he said, "But then so do elephants." I remember everybody laughing. And so I just always felt inferior all the time.
Yeah, that is.
Not
only is that hurtful, I think the hardest things that you've gone through is you've been with your father kind of saying those things that he said in public, and then in high school saying it in public, and nobody standing up for you, like, and nobody saying anything, I think that's what makes it so much, like, that's so hard. And it explains why, you know, what you've shared with me. And I just want to continue to say thank you for sharing and thank you for your vulnerability, because it's really, really important, because, you know, what you've shared with me here and you shared with me offline, it's like the fact that, you know, you had to go through that is one thing, but now the fact that, you know, you are making something out of it is another, you know? No, you're welcome. It's really true. I think the one thing that I think is really important for us to kind of talk about is how even as you had lost the weight, those insecurities somehow still didn't really go away. And so what people said, it kind of really stuck with you. And so I'd love for you to kind of elaborate on that, and then maybe share what did help you finally like break through and, you know, overcome some of, like, you know, to improve yourself. How do you improve your self-esteem? Because I think the expectation was when you lost the weight, you'd somehow like love your body and feel better and everything would be better. But it doesn't seem like it happened that way.
No, it didn't. And there was a lot more that contributed to my self-esteem issues. And we touched on it a little bit before. So when I said my mom died, and prior to her dying, a boy finally paid attention to me when I was 18. And my mom knew from the moment she met him that he was not a good guy. And I rebelled against that so much, because nobody ever looked at me or paid attention to me before, and he did. And I knew from the beginning that he wasn't a good guy, but I decided to look past that because he was the only guy who would look at me. So I let him mistreat me out of fear of not being good enough for anybody else, or nobody else wanting to give me any attention at all. And any attention was good attention. Any attention was better than no attention. So I continued to date him against my mom's, you know, wishes. And then my mom died. And my dad really wasn't somebody who I had a relationship with. So I kind of made my own way. I dropped out of college. I started to work, and I moved in with him. And once I moved in with him, he started abusing me. So I let him. He would for a year and a half, I was physically abused. And every time he would hit me, he would tell me that I'm sorry. This is not easy to talk about, but he would tell me that I was worthless and useless and fat and nobody else would want me. And then that was my destiny, and that I would just have to take it. And I believed him, and I took it. And cops would show up at my house, and neighbors would call, and they would show up at my house, and I would lie for him, and I would say everything was okay. And I lived like that for a year and a half. And then one day, I don't know how, I don't know what happened, but one day something clicked inside of me, and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I called up my aunt, and I said, can I come live with you? And she said, she knew, but I lied all the time. And she said, yes, pack your bags, come live with me right now. Come right now. And he wasn't home. I packed my bags and I just left. It's like I fled from there and tried to heal. And so there's a lot to contribute to, you know, the damage that was done by feeling like I wasn't valuable from my parents, my dad. It set me up to feel like I deserved to be mistreated, because what else was there for me? So I don't even know. I might have just went completely off topic with the question that you asked me.
Well, no, but well, so at that point though, you had not decided to because we had started with, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to share your story at all. So, but I think what we were trying to get at was with the weight loss. When did you choose to start to try to losing the weight?
I started when my daughter was born. Well, I was always trying to lose weight. Always. It never worked. I woke up every day on a diet and went to bed every night a failure. Woke up every day with the best intentions and went to bed eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a pizza. And every day was a fresh start and every day I failed. So I always felt like a failure. And I can remember one morning my husband came into the kitchen and I was on the kitchen floor in a ball crying. And I begged him to let me get bariatric surgery. I was like, I can't live like this. I'm miserable. I hate myself. Like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to socialize. I don't want to do anything. All I'm doing is sitting here eating all the time. And he said, I don't want you to do it. It's dangerous. We'll do whatever. I'll help you however I can, but I don't want you to do it. And so I didn't. And another 2 years passed of me on and off on this roller coaster. And I had gone away to the Bahamas to one of my sisters was getting married. And I thought that I had this pretty dress, which really looked like a tent when I got back and saw the pictures. And I'm in this picture and I'm standing next to my skinny sister. And when I saw the picture, my knees buckled. I was just like, that is what I look like. Like, I knew I was overweight and I knew I was uncomfortable and hated myself. But the picture, something clicked right there and then. And the next day, I said, I can't do this to my daughter. I don't have energy for her. I can't run around after her. I'm embarrassed to take her to the beach. I'm embarrassed. I don't want her to be embarrassed to me. I don't want history to repeat itself. This is my moment. And I joined a gym and Weight Watchers the very next day. And a year and a half later, 100 pounds was off.
Wow. So something switched in you and you just decided you were going to do something different. What was different about maybe, I know you don't do Weight Watchers anymore, but it was helpful for you in your journey at some point, right? So what was different about that? Was it a mindset? Was it the program? Was it, even the commitment to your workouts? It sounds like you weren't really working out like that much before either. Like what? Yeah. So what was you said there was a switch, like what exactly were you doing differently to kind of yield those results?
I just committed to the program. Like I committed, like in that moment when I saw that picture, it sent me like reeling. Like it just, I can't really explain the moment. I don't know. It was my daughter and it was that picture. The two of them combined, I thought to myself, you're going to die like this and your daughter is going to be alone and you lost your mother at 19 and you don't want to leave her alone. You got married, had a child, finished raising yourself by yourself. Like you don't want that I don't want that for her. Mm-hmm. So, it just motivated me. It just motivated me. It was my why. It was like my purpose statement. Like I really truly believe everybody needs a why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it needs to be deep and real. Yeah. And it needs to come from you. I think the difference sounds like in the past, it was because it was being told to you and it was coming from other angles. So yeah, there might have been this discomfort, but it was really more, I feel like maybe the comments from others made you feel like you needed to change. But then in that moment, that picture, that decision to do it for your daughter and for yourself was really more for you. Yeah. And it sounds like that's probably where, and like you said, and you just committed to it. And then here you are, which is awesome.
Once I got started, it was really, and I talk about this with my clients all the time. It's really because everybody's like, how do you stay motivated? You've had your weight off for 16 years. How have you kept your weight off for 16 years? How do you stay motivated? I'm like, I don't. Motivation is fleeting. It doesn't last. You can't rely on it. It's about taking action. Like the minute you take action and make a decision and stick with it, and it's not going to be easy, and you have to make choices every single day, and you take that action and you start to see results. Those results spark off that motivation, and that motivation wants you to keep going. And it's a cycle.
Right.
It just keeps revolving. It just motivated me to keep going. Every time that scale went down, I was like, I'm doing this. Like, yes. And it kept me up there, kept me motivated to keep going.
That's awesome. So now what happened when you lost the weight? Were you a more confident person? Did all of your insecurities just magically go away once you lost the 100 pounds?
No. So I decided to become a personal trainer from that. But I was not at my goal weight, and I did not fit the mold of what a personal trainer should look like. It didn't look like the cover of Muscle and Fitness magazine. I didn't think people would take me seriously. And I talked to my the manager at my gym, and I said, I'm so like in love with fitness. Like, I can't wait. I want to become a personal trainer. But he's like, so why don't you? I said, because who's going to take me seriously? I'm not even at my goal weight. And he said, let me tell you something. When you get into the fitness industry, you're going to see that every body type is, in the industry. And it's not about what you look like. It's what you know. And it's how motivating you are. And you're motivating. People, they watch you. They look at you working out at the gym. You know what you're doing. And you have this personality that, is inspiring to people. He's like, you could be ripped and be the worst people person and not know anything and be a personal trainer. And then you could be a personal trainer who knows what they're doing, who's been there, and, maybe not look the part, but be able to get people to where they want to go. Mm-hmm. I think you should do it now. And it took every bit of insecurity that I had. I enrolled in a program. It was a 3-month program, intense program. And I went to classes twice a week for 4 hours a night and did practicals every weekend and anatomy, physiology. We went through the whole thing. I didn't do a weekend course, which there are really good ones out there. Not to say that they're not, but I dove deep. Like, I went in.
Yeah.
And that launched a 15-year career. At first, I was too insecure to walk into a gym. I had the Weight Watchers people in my group wanting to hire me, and it started there with word of mouth, and I just did one-on-one in-home training. And then my financial situation changed, and I needed more money, and I had to walk into a gym, and I was so nervous. I didn't think I'd be taken seriously. And walking into that gym and meeting that gym manager, she heard my story, and she was inspired by it, and she hired me. And that turned into group fitness and teaching many formats. I took spin, boot camp, boxing, sculpt, aqua, and had a very thriving career, not being the stereotype. Mm-hmm. And every time I walked into a class and in front of a room, I felt like I was going to throw up. I was like, these people are going to be like, this is the instructor? No thanks, and walk out the door. Or how is she going to get me where I need to go when she's not even, where I want to be? Like, and that was the struggle that I had. And it was me getting in my own way. I think less people thought that way than I thought they did, but I lost the weight, but I never did the mental work. I never, healed the issues that I had in the past, the issues with my parents, and the bad relationship that I formed with food and what I look like from being ridiculed and abused and all of that stuff. So I didn't become happier. I didn't become more confident. And I still saw a big girl in the mirror. Suffered from body dysmorphia for a very long time. But yet I taught those classes and people came back and
they proved your inner critic wrong.
They did, but I still didn't believe them.
No.
Like, it was really, really hard. Like, I had to go to therapy and work through all that stuff to really value who I was and all the things that I had accomplished. Yeah. And so my career was 15 years until I Had a pretty serious accident that ended my career and also took me into a really dark place that I had no longer had a purpose anymore. So I had to start over and reinvent myself.
And that's when you decided to become a nutrition coach, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So that happened because I had woke up in the middle of the night and I fainted and I fell down a flight of stairs and I broke my neck and split my head open.
Oh my God.
And that ended my fitness career. And I couldn't work out for a year and a half. And I lost my whole career, my whole purpose. I didn't know who I was anymore.
Yeah.
I fell into a very deep depression and got a desk job and lived in fear every single day of gaining weight back. Every single day. And so while I was in that depression and struggling, I decided that I had to really dial in my nutrition and started doing some dumb things to do that. And it wasn't working. And then I said, you have to, there's got to be another way. You have to get out of this depression. You have to reinvent yourself. There's got to be a way for you to continue helping people. And that's when I decided to get, to study nutrition and get certified and start helping people on the nutrition end versus the fitness end, because I couldn't really do that anymore the way that I wanted to. I have limitations now that I can't teach group fitness.
Ugh, so frustrating. But look at you making, what's that saying? Lemons out of lemonade, or lemonade out of
lemonade
lemons.
Out of lemons.
I'm like, lemons out of lemonade, making lemonade out of lemons. You've been through some really rough times that not most people don't even see. The fact that you've been through a lot of this in, just your lifetime, but you've made it work. You've turned everything into a better situation. And I think that just speaks to your character and why people look up to you, and why they believe you're so motivating and inspiring, because you are. You really are.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. I would love to. So it sounds like the confidence piece and the self-esteem piece was more of a mental thing for you. It was more of what helped you. So it wasn't changing your body size that made you more confident. What did help you make you more confident? Or if you could give one lesson to our listeners who are working on improving their relationship with their bodies, what could that one thing be?
Well, I think personally for me, the mindset shift came when I was able to look at all the things that I overcame and was able to accomplish. That made me stronger and made me own the power behind that, and realize that my strength and value didn't come from what I look like or, my body or what anybody else thought. Because at the end of the day, we all have to fight through our own battles and struggles, and what other people think, and, not looking at myself as damaged anymore, but instead of powerful, gave me that confidence.
Yeah, which is awesome. And I think that goes to show, I think that's just knowing you're capable. You're capable of anything you want to set out, and doesn't matter on your body size. It doesn't matter about what other people think of you. It's that you are capable. And I think that alone, I think, exudes confidence, just knowing that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a struggle. I think we all struggle from, second guessing ourselves from time to time. I don't think it ever goes away.
Right.
I just try to dig into my strengths and focus on those, and focus on the things that I can control, and let go of the things that I can't, and sit in that stuff instead of marinating in the negative.
Yeah.
And just take all the things that are positives and all the things that I've learned and all of my progress, and use that to push me along to accomplish whatever comes my way.
Yeah. That's a powerful lesson. It really all comes down to our mindset, our shifting our perspective on things and finding the light in the darkness, which you've definitely have done. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I want to, just because I want to first of all say thank you for sharing, and it's particularly about the part with the domestic abuse. I wanted to provide a hotline for people, for anybody if they're struggling. I just felt like that would be appropriate right now. And if you are currently in that, this isn't what the podcast was going to be about, but I can't not talk about it. So if you are in a situation that you don't feel safe, there's the national hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. So 7233. So 1-800-799-7233. 1-800-799-SAFE, which is 7233. You can call, you can chat, and then you could also reach out to myself or Michelle if you feel comfortable. Michelle, if someone did want to reach out to you regarding something like that, of how to get out of a unhealthy relationship, but also, what you're actually, do for a living, which is heal the relationship with food and commit to healthier living and, all of those things, where could people find you?
So on Instagram, MLFit_Fedwell is my handle, and they can DM me there. And I also, have a link tree. They can go to my bio and see, what I offer there. So
awesome.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody does, need to feel safe about talking about domestic abuse. I'd be more than happy to talk to them and, struggle with any of what I talked about.
Yeah.
I totally reach out.
Guys, definitely reach out to her. If you enjoyed this episode, take a screenshot of it, share it on your story, tag me, tag Michelle. You can find our links in the show notes. Also, if you know someone who might benefit from listening to this podcast, definitely share it with them. Or if you haven't given it a review, definitely do that, because that always helps people find it, which is when you write a review or rate it, other people are more likely to find the podcast. So anyways, thank you, Michelle, for being here. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As always, I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.